Welcome class to another unit. I'm your professor Alex Gomez, and for this unit we are going to cover the Chicano movement that emerged during the civil rights era with four main goals. Number one, we're going to deal with the restoration of land. This movement was led in 1966 by Reies López Tijerina. He demanded investigation of Mexican land grants that were illegally stolen and protected by the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo that was signed in 1848, right after the U.S Mexican War. Tijerina argued that the U.S annexation of Mexico was also illegal. Number two, we're going to cover the rights for farm workers. This movement was led by Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. They both launched a national boycott of grapes, began in 1965 in order to sway grape growers to recognize the United Farm Workers. Number three, we're going to deal with the education reforms. Students play a central role in the Chicano fight for justice. Students staged school walkouts in Los Angeles in 1968 and in Denver in 1969 to protest Eurocentric curriculums, high dropout rates among Chicano students, and a ban on speaking Spanish and other related issues. One of the key figures that inspired students was Rodolfo Corky Gonzalez. He wrote a famous poem, Yo Soy Joaquín, or I Am Joaquín, published in 1967. This poem became a bright idea in the Chicano movement as it galvanized the idea of the word Chicano. During the LA walkouts in 1968, more than 50 years, there was a young teacher by the name of Sal Castro, who was the key organizer of the 1968 student walkouts called the Blowout by the youth, when as many as 40,000 Chicano students marched out of their schools to demand bilingual and bicultural education and more Mexican American teachers and administrators, relevant curriculum, accurate textbook, and an end to the tracking that steered Mexican students into vocational classes. Sal Castro was honored in 1996 by President Bill Clinton during a ceremony at the White House in recognition of his efforts to change the course of public education. This Chicano movement was sort of like a domino effect because it really inspired hundreds of Chicano activists who then later gathered to form the first national Chicano conference in Denver. The name of the conference is very significant because it really marks the term Chicano that I mentioned before as a replacement of the word Mexicano or Mexican. At the conference, activists developed a manifesto called El Plan Espiritual de Aztlán, or the Spiritual Plan of Aztlán, that deals with the homeland of the Aztecs. By embracing Aztlán, they were embracing the idea that Chicanos are also native from this land. Number four, Chicanos were looking for a better political representation, and that's how, through Miguel Ángel Gutiérrez, they founded the political party of La Raza Unida, or the United Race. And it was formed to bring issues of importance to Chicanos to the forefront of national politics. One of the greatest legacy of the Chicano movement really happened in April 1969, where a group of Chicano students, professors, and community activists met at UC Santa Barbara for a historic conference that will mark an important milestone in California Chicano history. That is why you have Chicano Studies, and that's why you have any studies. The conference ended up in El Plan de Santa Barbara, which served as a blueprint for the establishment of Chicano Studies programs throughout the UC system, and of El Movimiento Estudiantil Chicano Aztlán, MECHA, which is a statewide organization of Chicano students. During the late 1960s, the U.S. got really involved in Vietnam. There were many Mexican Americans who were recruited and drafted to the war, and that's how the Chicanos created the Chicano Moratorium Committee. It was made up mostly of young Mexican Americans under age 30. They organized protests in part to highlight the fact that Latino men were dying in the war far out of proportion to their numbers in the population. The Chicano Moratorium Committee vision was rooted in the reality that not only were Mexican Americans and other Latinos dying in Indochina, but conditions back home also needed to be addressed. Latinos were more likely than non-Hispanic whites to experience poverty, poor housing conditions, substandard education, and police brutality. I know those issues continue to be with us. For example, we're battling coronavirus, and Latinos are once again on the front lines and dying in disproportionate numbers. Another important component of El Movimiento, or the Chicano movement, was the involvement of artists in the social political movement, as artists began to actively participate in the efforts to redress the plight of Mexicans in the U.S. There emerged a new iconography and symbolic language which not only articulated the movement, but it became the core of Chicano cultural renaissance. The Chicano movement opened the doors for multiple forms of expression of art, from murals to fashion, independent films, and literature. If you ever take a tour to San Diego, Logan, or Barrio Logan, you'll find Chicano Park, which is the largest mural exhibit in the U.S. It was created in early 1970s, and today the park is a landmark, kind of the birthplace of murals in the Southwest. Ultimately, the Chicano movement won many reforms. The creation of bilingual and bicultural programs in the Southwest, improved conditions for migrant workers, the hiring of Chicano teachers, and more Mexican American and Latinx serving as elected officials. It's really important to go back in time and look what we're facing in today's time. Our situation in 2020 as we move into 2021 with hundreds of thousands of people dying in the US of coronavirus, and also the division in terms of politics, the attacks on the Capitol, Black Lives Matter. So there are plenty of issues that Latinx and Mexican Americans or Chicano we have to take on. Let me give you an example. The forced separation of families at the border. Once again, the high mortality rate of Latinos and Blacks due to coronavirus and police brutality. Those are items in our future agenda that we have to confront and fight.